So talk to me about, like, as you think about scorecards and getting the team aligned around what good looks like, and you've got people that are responsible for certain things in the process, how do you help them figure out what good does look like? One of the things I've talked about a little bit lately on LinkedIn and some other conversations I've had is scorecards are great and everybody defers to scorecards as part of a structured process, but it only brings us so much structure, as much as the instructions that you have for those scorecards. Like, yes, we want to evaluate for those things, but if I don't know what a 5 looks like, if my 5 is different from another person's 5, how much value does that bring to the hiring process? Then we're just in a room or talking asynchronously about our opinions and giving these ratings, which are kind of arbitrary. So how do you get everybody aligned on the rating scale, if you will?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's slightly easier for like specific technical skill sets of like, hey, here's what good looks like in this coding exercise, or here's what this looks like for this specific like technical knowledge. But I think it gets a little fuzzier when you get to, for example, values and things of we're just talking about we assess our values across the interview process. So each person takes a couple of them and digs deep on the behavioral interview side. But then it's also figuring out, okay, well, once I dig into those questions, what are signals to look for? Like what makes somebody a 4 versus a 1 for egolessness, for example. So actually, I've started the process of talking through with some of our leaders, one, what does this value mean to you? And also getting prescriptive around like green, yellow, red flags. So for example, if someone says, I don't know, hey, this was an assumption I had initially, people changed my opinion on it. Or, hey, I don't care about titles, just some of those signals that you get through the interview process. Or on the red flag side of, hey, like, I need to be a VP or bust, or, hey, how big is this team going to grow? Or, just some of those different pieces that aren't necessarily bad to ask, but that you start to see come up in interviews where if you're doing them repeat, it's really easy to spot. But if you're not, listening for some of those keywords is really important. And then off of that, what we just started doing is like some role play pieces of, hey, here's the scenario. Like, how would you rate this? What folks' thoughts are there too.
Yeah, that's great. And I love aligning around signals because I think often where teams trip up is they're really trying to coach people on like looking for a very specific answer. But the reality is in practice, that's so hard. And so what ends up happening is people that are on the hiring committee that aren't on the talent side, when they're tasked to evaluate for behavioral competencies, it often goes back to like, did I like them? Did I get along with them in the interview? And those are the things they pick up on. And then that skews, their evaluation of that person and what they're actually looking for. And so, yeah, it's really the signals that you want to pick up on. And that kind of helps you triangulate around, does this person demonstrate those competencies? Because to your point earlier, like every candidate's going to have a different story, different experiences. You're never going to be able to script something for a hiring stakeholder that's like, these are the 3 sentences you look for. But instead, here's the keywords, here's the phrases, here's what, a green flag would look like, here's what a red flag would look like. And then here's some scenarios so we can practice that and you can fine tune your skills on identifying those signals. I feel like that really helps an interviewer, check themselves on where do they really stand in their evaluation for this specific thing versus them trying to listen to a really long answer from a candidate and try and come up with some like arbitrary score for that response to a specific question.